Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to Overwatch Central. So the point of this video is to highlight problems in all skill tiers to weave this entire ladder together, whilst also making a video that applies to pretty much all players that will watch this video. A lot of the time we get comments asking for videos that can cover more skill tiers, or even specifically comments asking us to make videos on topics related to lower ranks in particular. Well, we hope that this video will be useful to you, but we haven't really made a lot of this kind of content before in the past, so please do let us know whether you like it in the comments and like this video if you enjoyed it. But we have a lot to get through today, so let's get started.
There are a few things you need to note before we start. The first and probably most important thing is that this video will highlight the issues and sort of the pillars as well that each skill tier stands on. And if you do decide to skip to the platinum section, for example, you will definitely miss some issues that start appearing already in silver and either take different shape or just stay the same in higher skill tiers. All the knowledge in this video is things we've learned over time, from playing ourselves, watching other people play, watching other people's VOD reviews, and just everything we've learned from the beta up until now, gameplay wise. Secondly, and this goes for almost all mid to low skill tiers, please don't blame ELO hell for where you're at. We can't really help you with that. There's no secret trick to just escaping ELO hell or whatever. This is not me saying though that ELO hell doesn't exist at all. I just don't really want to take a strong stance in that discussion, but putting your energy into blaming others or blaming matchmaking or whatever means that you're putting less time into improving at the game, and instead you just waste time and focus on just frustrating yourself. The important thing here is that you want to improve, and it really doesn't matter how good or how bad you are at the game, so long as that is your goal and you're willing to criticize yourself in order to work towards that goal.
First off, for bronze, I need to mention the basic game mechanic problems and that I can't personally help you out here with them. The reason as to why is I can't personally help you due to the fact that your problems could range from knowing the basic approach to the game, all the way to aiming or just even basic positioning and ability usage. Even though it might not seem like it in game, there are lots of friendly people in this community that are willing to help you out. There are plenty of subreddits dedicated to VOD reviews, and even if you have a friend that's willing to help you out by checking out recordings of your games, this is a great way of understanding what you may be doing wrong. You can also head over to our Discord to see if anybody is up for helping you out. We've had some silver and bronze players approach us in the past asking for basic VOD reviews. Some basic issues that appear a lot simply are things as just shooting a lot but not actually really aiming, or defending in completely wrong parts of the map. Let's move on to the no meta aspect and being comfortable on your hero and knowing roughly what your hero task should be. Sometimes it's better to just play that hero that you're comfortable on than trying to run any meta-like composition, especially at this level. But do remember though that a hero that you might think is fun playing, it doesn't mean that you may be actually playing them very well. In bronze there's also very little strategy and there's not really much of an approach plan a lot of the time, so anything you can do to stick together with your team and synergize is worth a lot. Whether this means pick up a couple of friends in the party to stay more organized, or just making sure that you're not running off on your own, it does definitely help. But keep reminding yourself to just stick with your team, because if you can coordinate in a team fight, you will win 9 times out of 10.
Alright, we're moving up to silver, a tier consisting of just the more standard 500 SR range rather than the massive 1500 SR that bronze stretches over. One of the main things here is that people start to teamfight a bit more, or at least stick together a bit more. In bronze there are a lot of really long fights, or just fights over time that turn more into occasional eliminations and trickling, rather than a proper team fight. In silver people tend to at least try to fight together more, which means that it's more important to be able to tell when you should dedicate and when you shouldn't dedicate to these fights and encounters. Deciding to dedicate to a fight or not can be as simple as not running away from it or coordinating ultimates together. This is an aspect that you can approach from two different angles. The first one is more simple, and it's more about capitalizing on the issues rather than trying to solve them. People are a bit more together yet not very well coordinated, right? This means that ultimates such as Mercy's Res can be extremely effective in a fight that doesn't go too well for your team. The other approach you can take is more about fixing the problem on your team's end before you lose a fight. Something that Zarya, for example, can do. She will provide the same type of coordination fix, but in more of an offensive way by clumping enemies together with her ultimate. Zarya at a higher skill tier will normally require quite a lot of coordination to get good ults with, because you tend to see Zenyatta ultimates or other ways of preventing from dying in a Zarya Graviton Surge be used in reaction to the Graviton Surge. But in silver there rarely is enough coordination, and definitely not enough Zenyatta players to have that happen as much at least. The Zarya ult not only clumps the enemies together for you to easier be able to deal damage to them, but is also a great way to sort of call all of your team to just focus fire down the enemy team. Even if they do have a Reinhardt shield, it might not matter sometimes. So the Zarya Graviton Surge isn't only a good way to just clump all enemies together, of course, but Zarya's voice line for the ultimate kind of works as a call to action for your team as well.
Onto Gold, a tier that we actually have a little bit of personal experience in. This is where the no meta phenomenon might start to wear off a little bit, but I would still generally say that it's a lot more important to be good and comfortable on a hero rather than attempting a meta composition. Speaking of team compositions though, it's still a lot more important not to run a too unconventional composition here as well, as people will start pointing out a lack of healers or tanks at this level, and the enemy may very well capitalise off of it. On the topic of capitalising, let's talk counter picking. This starts to become more prominent in Gold than in previous tiers, and it can be incredibly effective. If you can look at the enemy team lineup and recognise that a Winston would be a really strong pick for your team, then you will be incredibly effective if they have nothing to deal with it. Or maybe adding a Pharah to your lineup would result in the enemy Junkrat or Symmetra struggling a lot. You have a massive advantage in that situation. This is definitely the tier in which you need to start recognising these sort of problems all of the time, so get used to it. This also means that we may have a change in the Mercy and support section. If you've climbed from Silver to Gold or similar by playing Mercy, you very well may have noticed that people will start killing you a lot more in Gold. There's nothing wrong with sticking on Mercy here, but your life is about to change a whole lot. The team who kills the opposing Mercy here will have the big advantage in any upcoming team fight. This is why I like to highlight that the Gold skill tier can sometimes be all about killing the enemy Mercy. So if you're playing a DPS hero, you should definitely focus on that. Another reason as to why Mercy and Lucia are still picked here a lot is because people can't really get use out of Ana and Zen because they may not have a good enough aim to utilise those heroes or the experience to use their abilities properly. Overall, we'd say that Lucia and Mercy see a lot more play, and we could definitely understand and I honestly recommend it as well. Another important thing to start nailing down in Gold, if you haven't already of course, is for example to know where you should be defended on each map and how to position yourself in relation to how the enemy team attacks. Watching streams of players at a slightly higher level than you is a great way of getting a better idea of this, and it's all about experience at the end of the day. So the more that you play, the better you will be at this.
Okay, we're in Platinum now and around the average skill rating of the Overwatch player base. This is a very interesting place as we found over time that games around this level will vary a lot in style and quality. The general idea in Plat though is that people will start caring a lot more about meta. It is brought up all of the time in games, there's a lot of focus on team compositions and hero picks. Whilst this is important, it is yet another one of those factors that can distract you from the objective of the game sometimes. If someone just seems to refuse to switch from a certain character after your team has suggested a switch, then move on. But by all means, if you think you can form a better team comp by suggesting picks and discussing picks with your team, then please do exactly that. Just don't get stuck on the topic. This nicely ties into the next point we have for Platinum, which is all about communication. Communicating hero picks is great and all, but please do not forget to actually communicate as you are playing as well. A very common thing I used to get when in Plat was that some people would just discuss hero picks before the game starts, and then as the game actually is going, there would be less and less communication. When a team of mine was losing, people would sometimes even stop talking entirely or even leave voice comms. This is probably the last thing you need if you're at a disadvantage in a matchup. And yeah, sure, if you're on the other side of the spectrum, in my position basically, there's not really much you can do other than keeping a positive attitude. Next point is about a bit of a mindset and mentality change. In Platinum, you'll start seeing more of the whole poking and harassing into getting a pick or an elimination on an enemy hero into a team fight being initiated. The cycle of poking, getting a pick and starting a fight from that hero pick is a big part of Overwatch gameplay, so focus on your role in that cycle and what the hero you're playing is responsible and not responsible for. This definitely starts becoming a lot more clear in Platinum. You might see hints of it in Gold, but in Platinum is where this playstyle really settles in.
Right, so we've hit Diamond. The first thing I want to say here is that the tips from here on out will be a little bit more specific, but most likely a little bit shorter as well. This is because some Diamond, a big part of Masters, and most of Grandmaster play will have a lot to do with optimizing and improving the aspects of the game that you already know. So with that out of the way, let's talk about team fights. Team fights in Diamond will be very ultimate focused, which is why initiating with ults and aiming to secure picks quickly is important. Giving enemy times to react in a long team fight simply won't work anymore. On top of this, you need to start keeping an eye on the enemy ults. In tiers higher than Diamond, it's just standard to track enemy ultimates by keeping an eye on what they may have not used in a while and might also be ready to go with. On top of these tips, I would definitely recommend to start queuing with a more set group of people. Players that have a similar mentality to you and play heroes that synergize well with the heroes that you can play as well, as it can be extremely beneficial for you.
We're starting to reach the top percentage of players now, with the Master tier starting around roughly the top 8 or 7% of players. Master tier requires even further improved communication and calls compared to earlier tiers, and one of the most important things in my opinion to either stay or climb in the Master skill tier is to maintain a positive, constructive and objective mindset. This is not something that can be taught to you via tutorial or how-to videos of any kind, but is simply something that you can learn by keeping it in the back of your head, staying calm calm and taking breaks if you're frustrated. Failing to do this though is what has kept me hovering around the high diamond and low masters level for a long time now, and has been the cause of pretty much all losing streaks I have had. I've learned to work against it and have started climbing again, but it took a while for me to recognize. On a different note though, it is in masters where meta starts to really matter. Sure, some people are still amazingly good at some of their more niche picks, but meta starts to matter a lot here. Additional tips for master players is to start focusing your hero pool down to a very specific set of heroes as well. This is because you simply need to start optimizing and playing your standard heroes a lot better here. If there are any heroes that you feel like you play alright but not consistently good enough, you might have to choose to stop playing that hero and spend more time perfecting another hero's skill set. Another thing that is kind of connected to that same point is to seek help from other players that you either know personally or get in touch with in-game or via other means, just to get a fresh pair of eyes to look at your gameplay. Right at the start of the video we talked about getting help with more basic issues, and in Master Tier you've definitely come far enough to need help again. But this time with nailing down the smaller and more hidden issues that you may have on certain heroes. If you know someone that plays on a Grandmaster level, or someone that just plays the same heroes that you play on the same level or a higher level, then do reach out to them for help, as that is where you can really find a lot of useful knowledge.
As for Grandmaster and top 500 players, it's obviously all about continuing to optimize and min-max aspects of the heroes that you play. Most players in Grandmaster tend to have a very limited set pool of heroes that they play due to how much the game will require from you, and that the bar is set by the other players in your games. Reviewing your own games, watching professional Overwatch players stream, and maybe even forming a regular 6-stack to start scrimming with is definitely to be considered. But with that, the video has come to an end. Thanks very much for watching. As I said at the start of this video, we haven't really done stuff like this a while, at least these long types of video anyway. So do let us know in the comments that you enjoyed it, like this video as well, but do also let us know what other videos you would like us to do in the future that are like this. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you then.